So I've come down this road here, travelling westwards into the ferry. I'm aware that there's a vehicle stopped at the junction there. The driver hadn't seen me. I continued on my route. The driver had come out in his car, and that's when we collided. I've been riding motorcycles from a very early age. I'd always taken my safety very seriously. I always had good quality leathers, helmet, boots, gloves, and was always forward thinking in that if something were to happen, this is how I felt I would get out of it. I didn't have time to take any of that into consideration on that day. After the collision, I was thanking myself, okay, I've made it out of that one. The injuries I received were to my right femur that required intramedullary nailing. So they had to put a metal rod down the centre of my femur, bolts in my knee, bolts in my upper hip, and at the top of the femur as well. I had broken thumbs, wrists were damaged as well, and metal pins were put in my thumbs. The recovery was long and it was slow. I was frustrated at being off work, not being able to do simple little tasks. To get from downstairs up the stairs, I expected a medal. You know, at that time I only had use of one arm, one leg, and the simple little things were just turned upside down and made a nightmare, to be fair. The reason I didn't get back on a bike again were quite emotional ones. While I was in hospital at the time, my mother was also in hospital, and she'd said, "Graeme, please promise me that you'll never go back on a bike again." I think it was a very easy promise to make, and I've stuck to that promise, and I've never been on a bike since. Digby Brown was a name that I had heard of, but never had I had any dealings with. They were very professional. But what you also saw were glimmers of a human at the other end of the phone. It was a somebody, and it was a somebody that was looking out for myself. It was somebody that you felt that you could trust, because you are building up a relationship with that individual. It's a time when you're of emotional instability, and I'm glad they took care of a lot of things that I wouldn't have thought of myself. The level of compensation was more than I expected, and it was fantastic to have that amount. Did it fulfill everything? Did it bring back everything that I'd lost? I would have said no. I would have said no, because the level of enjoyment that I got from biking, if I could buy it back, I would have given it back to Digby Brown. I do miss the bikes dreadfully, but I'm alive. I've got my mobility back. I'm doing other things. You know, life has to move on, and that's what I've done.